Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining today's stream. Welcome Jamie, Hunter, Slick, AJ, Sean. Thank you guys so much for joining. We have a lot to cover today in the market. We had AMC earnings after the bell yesterday. Mrna stock is still exploding. We have a lot to talk about today. Welcome Maine, Keisha, Vicky. Thank you guys so much for joining. Slick, you had it right on the money. Thanks so much for joining today. But guys, as usual, let us know what stocks you're watching. Let us know what stocks you want us to cover. The main stock I'm watching for today is Mrna. This stock has been exploding over the past month and especially over the past week. So definitely keep an eye on it. But Tom, what stocks are you watching this morning?
Yeah, Moderna is definitely a big one. I really like how they're kind of getting up here around $500. But you know what? With this infrastructure bill going through or possibly going through today, it says that they're set to pass this at some point today. But I'm actually going to be watching some of these EV charging stocks like CHPT, BLNK. I feel like these stocks could really get a big boost up from this bill. And every time that there's been talk about the infrastructure bill, these stocks have kind of popped up on that type of news. So if we get a good passage of the bill today, I think that would be a really good sign. And I know the bill is still going to go to the House and everything to have to get passed there, but in the end, it's still good news for it.
Absolutely. So I'm really glad you brought this up because I feel like a lot of people have been kind of sleeping on these two stocks. So I really like CHPT. It had an amazing day yesterday. CHPT and BLNK move in a very similar way. So I'm glad you brought those two up. And then we have Slick saying, I like AMD to the downside in my Tom voice. Oh yeah, I have FCEL shares at $6.38. Not bad. So there we go, Slick. Tom, let's take a look at AMD.
Yeah, AMD is looking pretty decent today in pre-market to the downside. It is up very, very slightly, only 20 cents. It's not really up much from yesterday's closing price at all, and it's kind of falling back off now. So we might see more downwards movement. I'm hoping AMD can get all the way down to $100. I doubt we'll see that happen, but man, I'm definitely hoping for some more red today. It's really started to pull back ever since flying up there over the past few days. And I'm really happy to see it pulling back. It's actually moving like we would have expected a lot of these other stocks like Moderna and Target to start doing.
For sure. So, Slick, you really got a really great price on FCEL, which is awesome to see. But Tom, let's talk a little bit about AMC. I know a lot of people were watching this one. They reported earnings yesterday. They had some interesting things to say, and the stock's up like 10% right now. Can you give us some levels to watch out for?
Yeah, the stock's up like 10%. I would say if we could pop back up above 38.25, which would be the high of pre-market, that would be a pretty good level. And we honestly came back up and moved like right off of $38, right back to the downside, really close to that. So really just watch for 38.24. I think if we can get back above there, it would be awesome. But I have a pretty good support down here right around 33. So if we start to go down, watch for $33, watch for 34.50. I think there's a pretty good resistance right around there too. So there's definitely a lot of levels coming up today, but I would really watch this one to the upside. With that hype yesterday, I would hope it can continue, but there was earnings, and a lot of times lately we've seen stocks pop up in pre-market and then pull back for the next couple days after these earnings.
For sure. So we have Hunter talking about FSR. So let's take a look at that one. FSR is really popping up. They're up like 21% today. They're just exploding right now. Looks like they broke right through that $18 resistance, and they just have a ton of momentum.
Yeah, they do. And I'm actually reading that it says Morgan Stanley initiates coverage on Fisker with overweight rating, announces price target of $40 a share. So that's a big, actually, valuation by Morgan Stanley, pretty much saying that this stock's valued at over 100% of their current price. So hopefully Fisker can get itself up there. And I hope that this can drive investors in because they've been moving flat for pretty much ever since they came on the market.
Absolutely. And then with the other question we have, we have Kieran asking about DDD. So this stock is up a lot today. It's up like 20% or so. And look at this candle at open. It's just exploding.
What's the ticker, Mike? Triple D?
Yep.
Oh, okay. 3D Systems. I see. Yeah. Definitely looking good today, all the way up to like 34.50, Mike. That's a pretty big pop, actually, in pre-market off those earnings yesterday. And I'd love to see it continue today. I'm glad it's continuing and not kind of pulling back like we've seen a lot. It is up 20%, Mike. I mean, it's getting pretty overextended, but I've heard that these 3D printing companies can start to do pretty good. And I've heard really good things about this company specifically. So I'm not surprised to see it going up at all.
All right, with the next comment, let's see. So we have Sean saying Mrna is on my watch list at the moment. And Tom, look at this reversal right at open.
Yeah, big reversal. I wonder if $500 is going to be the top, Mike. You know, $500 is a really key level. I know that's a big psychological level too. And man, it's pulling back really hard off of this. So maybe 500 will be that big resistance that we've been waiting for. And it could be a good short opportunity, especially since we're at 500. But it almost seems like that would be too easy. You know, I feel like the market would make it a little bit harder than just seeing an easy 500 resistance there.
For sure. So I'm just looking at a couple different, I don't know how to, yeah, I'm looking at like a couple different options that are like really far out of the money. So I'm looking at like the 620 strike call for August 20th. Yesterday, this call was trading for like $750, and the stock is only down like 0.5% right now. And it went from 750 all the way down to like 450, just like off of that move. So it's actually really crazy. And, you know, on a technical, or not even on a technical level, just like on a, you know, price level, like comparison, like the stock is at a very similar price, but, you know, the option lost like what, like 40% of its value or so. That just goes to show you why it's so important to get good quality options. You know, like the stock barely moved down, and, you know, some of these options are losing a ton of value.
Yeah, that's a really big deal. Those options, that options pricing is going to be really key. And like you said, the stock barely moved and we have those options just flying down. So that's why we're honestly like those were looking like perfect calls to short, Mike, over the past couple days. Hard to do though whenever these stocks are running up like that. But man, that's a lot of money for only expiring on August 20th. Man, that was honestly a really good find there.
You know it. All right, so we have Keisha saying watching Clove, Posh, NVTA, and Plug. So we got four big ones. Clove is looking pretty decent. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's looking pretty good. It was running up a lot yesterday. Today, initially in pre-market, it had a pretty good day. I like how it's holding its ground so far this morning, and it looks like it's starting to catch some green back up. So I hope we can kind of continue this momentum and maybe break back out above like $9.10. I think that would be a pretty good level to move back above.
All right, we'll get back to Keisha's stocks, but Tom, I have to point out DraftKings. It's really popping up right at open.
Wow, there we go. I love to see that. They had that amazing pre-market yesterday off of that GNOG acquisition, and then they ended up coming down midday with a pretty nasty move at open. So I'm glad to see them going back up today, and hopefully they can get up above $54, that high of pre-market yesterday, because man, that news with Golden Nugget Online is pretty big, I think, and that's going to be a pretty big pickup for them. You know, that's going to open up just more windows. And I really like how they have this green candle extending up above the 100 and the 200 SMAs on the daily chart, especially after having those two consolidation like red days. So I really like this stock. I like the setup, and I really hope that it can go up after those earnings, because the earnings were pretty promising. You know, they beat those estimates. In the end, you know, they said they said a lot of promising stuff about growth in that. So I hope that they end up going up.
All right, and then back to Keisha's stocks, POSH. This one's trading pretty close to its lows. They have earnings today, actually. POSH. Their low is around like $33 and like 23 cents. So we're pretty close to that. Earnings are always 50-50 though. And if we go over to NVTA, this one is in a kind of similar setup. They don't have earnings, but they're pretty close to their low still. And then Plug, it actually has a good amount of momentum. And I actually like this one. And in a way, it reminds me of CHPT.
Yeah, Plug is going to, I think, be thrown right in with CHPT and BLNK. I think it'll be one of the bigger ones even. I know that Plug has been really popular over the past few years. And, man, honestly, all these stocks are really low given their highs. And even given their highs of a couple weeks ago, they're still like a 5-point move back up to $35. So, honestly, all these stocks are down quite a bit. I think for shares, they're all pretty good pickups right now, even for selling puts. I like them, and if this bill passes, I expect these stocks to really start to fly up over the next couple of years. And man, I'm going to really be eyeing up some shares right now, because out of every other stock I'm seeing in the market, it seems like this type of sector is the one that's been like lagging behind, or at least they're down by their lows. All these other stocks seem like they're way up by their highs, or at least they've recovered up way more.
All right, and then let's see. We have AJ saying Carnival blew up. So I actually just saw that. CCL is popping intraday. Think it looks great. RCL is moving in a similar way. NCLH, they're all moving pretty similarly, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah, that's a nice move at open. I wonder if some like news came out. I know I saw something yesterday about the cruise lines and with DeSantis. So I don't know like if something happened like with their lawsuit or something, but I will say it looks good for the cruise lines and I'm glad to see them going up. And any way they can kind of go up and get good news to where they can finally start to profit again, that's good news to me. So hopefully they can start to go up. And they've been really down by these supports, Mike, down here around $20 a share, hovering down for quite a while. So I'm honestly just waiting for these ones to pop back up. They've been down for what seems like a couple months now.
All right, and then we have Maine saying, will AMC have another run today? So he is one of the most volatile stocks on the market, so it's hard to say for sure. However, they're definitely off to a good start with that run up in pre-market and after hours on their earnings report. Their open's not looking the best, but they are holding their ground. So really, it's just so hard to say given, this stock is one of the most volatile stocks on the market and it's an earnings day. But, I would say that the odds are definitely in their favor, especially with the way that they've been moving so far today.
Yeah, that I would agree. They're moving down and I think it looked good earlier in pre-market, but I don't know what happened to open. Sometimes this happens with earnings. And, I think if they would have reported a little bit better of earnings, I think that they would be doing a little bit better than they're doing right now. I don't think their earnings were spectacular. And their CEO even said that the movie theater chain is still like a long way from, getting back to, those like type levels that they want to be at. So that's big news, honestly, I think to the downside. But either way, hopefully the investors come in and kind of drive this up. AMC is definitely going to be hype driven, but it seems like today that hype is definitely gone.
All right, and then one other stock I wanted to mention was BYND. This stock is popping up so far today. They're up like 3% or so, and I saw that they had like some sort of like deal with like Pizza Hut. So let me read the headline. It said, Pizza Hut expands partnership with Beyond Meat to test new plant-based Beyond Pepperoni Pizza toppings. So, it's good news and the stock's running up. So I figured I'd shout it out.
Yeah, that sounds like pretty good news. Do you know Pizza Hut's ticker by chance?
I think it's PZZA.
PZZA? Oh, Papa John's.
Oh,
But
no. Let's see.
hey, don't blame us, guys. These pizza stocks aren't the we'll say they're not the best stocks to trade, but I'll be honest, Papa John's daily chart, Mike, they're like at all-time highs. This is honestly looking pretty good. I have not looked at these pizza stocks in years, it feels like.
Yeah, so I believe it's actually ticker symbol YUM, and Yum Brands owns a bunch of different companies like that. So I believe it's YUM, but like I said, it's not just Pizza Hut.
Man, these tickers are popping off. I mean, man, the pizza industry and even like Papa John's itself was doing great. So I don't know what's going on, but man, Yum Brands is up quite a bit. I would expect a little bit of a pullback soon.
You know it. All right, so we have a lot of people talking about Mrna. Lots of chat with Mrna, and it's not tanking just yet, but it's definitely not looking the best.
Yeah, it's not, and that $500 resistance is going to be pretty key, I think. Definitely have your eyes on this one. I think Mrna will be a pretty hard one for today. It's not the easiest stock to trade. Mrna, it'll probably retest 500 three times today before it ends up going down. So, be really careful with it. I think it's at a good time to grab some puts or, maybe like a spread of some kind right now, or maybe some puts and then even turn it into a spread a little later, I think would be a good way to go if you just wanted to do that. But I really like it. I think that we could fall below 460 over the next few days and possibly get a move back down. But it looks like today there's a pretty good support down here, like right at 470. So if we break that, then I would expect some more movement down. But Mike, as I was talking here, we're moving all the way back up to 500, it looks like.
There we go, DraftKings. I know Mrna's, it's consolidating, but DraftKings is a stock to watch. They're breaking out, Tom, and just like we said yesterday, every time after their earnings report, historically speaking, they pop up a couple weeks after, and it looks like we're seeing the same exact pattern.
Yeah, we are. I'm glad to see this one popping back for us and looking at it on the 15-minute. We're approaching that resistance around $54. So hopefully we can get up through that. And honestly, we've already retested 54 or 55 like 2 times now. So maybe we'll finally get that third pop and get that third like move finally up through there and break that level.
There we go. All right. With the next comment, let's see. We have Maine saying STR also has good volume today. STR. Let's take a look. STR. We're having ASTR. Okay, they meant ASTR.
Oh, that
Let's
makes more
see.
sense.
Okay, ASTR. Yeah, it's popping up pretty well. It's up like 11% or so. Good volume and doesn't look bad.
Man, I think that this stock could catch a lot of momentum. I'm glad to see it breaking out like this. I think ASTR could be pretty good. They're kind of like a SpaceX competitor, except they're on the market and they're actually going to be taking a Space Force satellite up into space later this month on like August 25th, sometime right around there. Don't quote me on it. It was a few days ago since I talked about it, but man, they really have a lot of good news coming up, especially with that Space Force satellite. I think that's going to be pretty big news. So have your eyes on it. I think once this gets into the headlines, it'll get pretty big. But I'll be honest, this stock has already popped up from these lows quite a bit. I mean, they moved from like $8.12 at the lows, $8.20, all the way up to like $12.50 at the highs today. So that's honestly a pretty big move. And I would expect more with this launch, especially if it goes well. But keep in mind, though, it could go bad and then it could end up going down. But it seems like as of right now, it might start to get a lot of momentum in it.
All right, and then we have Mike saying RSI maybe the next GNOG. So let's take a look at GNOG. I know that they have that deal with DraftKings, which I love, obviously, but yeah, GNOG is popping up pretty well. I know that their deal with DraftKings isn't set to close until the first quarter of 2022, so there is a little bit of time with it, but I really like this deal. I was looking into it. Overall, everyone who owns GNOG, if the deal ends up going through, they'll just get shares of DraftKings, which is awesome to see. But if we take a look at RSI, it's up like 3% today, and it does look pretty good.
Yeah, they've actually had a pretty good like past few days. It almost reminds me of like ASTR actually or something. It had like those lows of $9. Now it's sitting around $13. It's up quite a bit the past few days. I don't know what RSI does. I've actually never looked into them before. I've actually never heard of them. So I'll have to really research this one because the movement looks like it could start to go back up for the shorter term.
All right, and then we have Maine saying Palantir for today, please. So Palantir had a pretty great opening, but then they just started to sell off. But they're up like 1%. I believe they have earnings soon. Yeah, they do have earnings soon. So it looks like we're seeing a little bit of a pre-earnings run-up. I think it looks good, but it's not like good enough for like a day trade, at least right now, to either the upside or the downside. Like we either need like a breakout in one direction, but overall it's looking good for like a longer term hold.
Yeah, I'd agree that, it's really going to be really hard to trade today with this up and down movement. Like, for example, we might hit the 23 support and go back up, but we might fall through that, bounce off of 22.87 or, nobody knows. So just be really careful with this one. It's not like Mike said, it's not really picking a direction, almost like yesterday. Like if we could have that movement like yesterday, it would be fantastic. But, you can see an obvious difference into today.
All right, and then let's see. We have Kieran saying BLNK. So this one had a great run up, just like CHPT, but it's starting to sell off a little bit right now. BLNK is bouncing off, well, it was bouncing off that support at 36. It just fell below it. So it has support at 36 and then another support at like 35.50. So hopefully it holds those levels, but it's not looking the best intraday.
Yeah, it's not looking too good right now. BLNK and CHPT were looking pretty good to the upside earlier on. Now they're kind of selling off a little bit. Hopefully they can get a good pop-up whenever that infrastructure bill passes. If it passes today through the Senate, that would be a pretty good thing, but we'll have to see like how it goes. It says that they're set to pass this today, but it just ends up depending. There could be some weird stuff come up, but it says that they're going to be voting around 11 a.m. Eastern time. So honestly, pretty soon, Mike. It's only like 9:46. Yeah, in about an hour they're gonna have the vote, so that'll be pretty interesting.
All right, and then let's see. We have Alex saying, "Where do you see DraftKings going in the next 1 to 2 weeks. So, of course, it's hard to give like a 1 to 2 week projection, but, if we look back throughout history with their earnings reports, after like a couple weeks, you could say 1 to 2 weeks after their earnings report, they normally pop up like anywhere between like $5 to $10 or so. So I would just expect DraftKings to, kind of sit in like maybe somewhere around like 57, maybe 56 or so. Like I said, I am biased towards DraftKings, and this is just looking at past data. So I'm targeting like 56 to 57, but it's hard to give like an accurate prediction.
Yeah, and I think that's a pretty safe place to target. That's going to be up like at a lot of these resistance levels. So I think that would be pretty safe. And just looking at DraftKings, honestly, like, man, they've been moving so well. They moved very well off this bottom $40 support, held that very nicely. I love how they're holding $50 and starting to really bounce off of there nicely. Something I really like is how in pre-market the past few days, they've been going down, hitting $50 and then coming right back up. And that shows you that there's now a big wall at $50 a share. So I'd really watch that. I think that's going to be the biggest support. And I'm not sure we'll see DraftKings back below $50 for like the next few weeks, but man, hopefully, this stock can start to break out. $55 has been pretty big on the resistance side of it. So I hope we can see a breakout with it, especially with the way it's been moving after earnings.
All right, Tom, we have to check back in on Mrna. Looks like we're about to break the low of day, which we just did. The next support is at 470. After 470, we have another support at 460. There's just so much volume on it this morning.
Yeah, this is a ton of volume right off of $500, guys. We've been waiting for Mrna to go down for quite a long time. It looks like today will be the start of this downturn. And man, we're getting down to that 1,000 SMA even on the 1 minute chart, which is very strange for Mrna, a stock that only goes up. I don't think they've touched this in quite a while in the middle of the day. But man, looking at Mrna, I think they could get a lot of momentum back down. Looks like they are kind of holding this 470 level for like for the next couple minutes, but I think we will get more movement down, whether it be, tomorrow or maybe later today. Even if they end up holding 470, I think we'll still end up going down over the next few days.
All right. And then we have Hunter asking about MU. So this stock is also having a little bit of a beatdown today. They're down like 3%, and, they're just kind of channeling between like 75 and 85. They're like pretty close to the middle of that channel, but closer to the downside. Overall, they're a solid company, but maybe if they continue to fall, I might sell some puts on them.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good thing if they keep falling. I'd honestly really look at shares. I've been really like researching Micron a lot lately and been looking into them. They're a pretty big AI company with the way they use like memory and stuff. I will say though, I love them as a company, but looking at the technicals on my daily chart here, MU, they've hit this 100 SMA about 3 times now and got rejected off of it every single time it touches it. So I'm really going to be waiting for a breakout above that. Another breakout back above 85, like you said, would be right up above there. So that would be a great level to watch for. And honestly, like you said, if it keeps going down, selling some puts or, trying to get some shares for the longer term would not be a bad idea. I don't think, these microchip stocks and the semiconductor sector is expected to be one of the biggest growth sectors over the next like 10 years. So hopefully we can continue to see, these stocks continue to go up. But man, if this keeps going down, I'll definitely be looking at selling some puts with you.
All right. And then we have Keisha saying, what are your thoughts on Tesla? So, they're just at a point right now where they don't have any momentum, not to the upside or the downside, and that makes it really hard to trade. So, like, especially for an options trader, like, the premiums just get demolished. So, it's just at a point right now where I personally don't see any opportunities with it, for day trades, swing trades, or even selling options. Like, it's just at a price point where, like, I wouldn't even sell puts on it. So, if, like, maybe I'm missing something, but, like, I just don't see anything great for me.
Yeah, it's really hard to say right now. Personally, I would probably play it to the downside. Now, I love Tesla. I'm just playing it off of this blue trend line that it's just failed to break out above, and we're just hovering right at there. So I would probably wait for it to fall below $700 and then maybe grab a quick put play or something on it. That might be the only thing I do if I was going to play it, but I probably won't end up playing it anyways.
All right, and then let's see. We have Maine saying Palin. Oh no, we already got that one. Let's see. Wendy said FSR. So I remember this one was popping up a good amount, and it's up like 26% or so. They have resistance at $19.50. After that, they have a really strong resistance at 20, and then after that, they have another resistance at like $20 and like 60 cents or so.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's like those are some pretty good levels there. And just looking at it today, I would say just looking at like the 1 minute, it looks like it's going to be pulling back over the next like few minutes or so. But it definitely has that hype to it. Like we could see a good pop, but it's just hard to say. It's up 25% already.
You know it. All right, and then we have Jorge saying Clove reached $9.23 at open, but started being shorted hard. Earnings tomorrow. So let's take a look. 923 it ran up to. CLOV. Yeah, so it tried to run up. The pre-market movement was pretty good, but like you said, Jorge, a lot of sellers came in right at open and just kind of totally derailed that momentum. They're down like 1% or so. IV's rising a little bit. I wouldn't say the play's like completely dead or anything. Like they're holding support pretty well at $8, and they do have earnings, and that can totally change the momentum.
Yeah, those earnings could honestly really turn this around, and hopefully the earnings are good. Hopefully they're not bad earnings. If we go look at Clove, their earnings have not been the best in the past, but I will say though, after their earnings in the past, it's almost been something like DraftKings. Like over the next few weeks, they end up getting a pop up. Maybe not like the day of earnings, but it seems like the next couple days. So we'll have to see what happens. And they are like right around support. So maybe they'll get a pop back up. We'll have to see.
All right, and then let's see. We have AJ saying thoughts on COST calls. Costco calls. They're just like a really slow and steady stock. In a way, it kind of reminds me of Target, actually. It's just been going up basically nonstop over like the past couple months. So it's hard. It's hard to bet against them, but I don't know. It's tough. Like it's like a nice slow and steady stock, and I wouldn't necessarily buy puts on Costco this second, but at the same time, I definitely wouldn't be buying into calls at this point. So I just think it's really hard to say, and I just feel like there's better opportunities out there like DraftKings, Boeing, RCL, PENN, Corsair. I just feel like there's better opportunities.
Yeah, and like Boeing's looking actually pretty good today. I don't think we've talked about them too much, and it looks like they're actually, they're down right now, but early on they were starting to break out above that resistance at like 233.50. That was actually a pretty big level that they broke out above, but they ended up not running up too much.
Yep. All right, and then let's see. Then we have Justin saying, "Morning, Mike and Tom. Thanks so much for joining, Justin." And then we have M saying, "Resistance on Zoom." So Zoom is popping up pretty well right now. It's up like 2% or so, and looks pretty good. Of course, that main resistance is right at 400. There's also another strong resistance at 430, but I'm going to see if there's anything closer. There is a little bit of resistance at like $392 and like 50 cents or so. Tom, do you see any levels that I'm missing?
Yeah, I mean, 392.50 honestly seems pretty good, and I think it hit that today. Yeah, it hit like right around there today and started to go back down. So I think on the intraday that looks good. As a support, I really like $380. I think that looks so defined. And so I would throw support at 380, and I'd throw that intraday resistance right around like, like you said, like 392.75, 392.50, somewhere really close to there.
Sounds good. All right, cool. So that's all the questions for right now. We have a stock, Walmart, that's just exploding under the radar, and it's only up like 1.3%, which is actually a lot for a stock like Walmart. And some of their options, like especially on the weekly chain, are up anywhere from like 80% to like 300%.
Wow, weekly chain, they're actually up that much on Walmart.
Yeah.
You usually don't see Walmart running like this, Mike. This is pretty good. And man, is it an earnings move? Is this why they're running? No, the earnings have looked like they happened a little while ago, it looks like. Well, let's see. Oh no, the earnings are coming up. Okay. On that daily chart, it was kind of all smushed together. Sometimes it's hard to see, but yeah, looking at it, I love to see it run like this. And just looking at it on the daily, we're getting up to some of these resistance levels, Mike. But man, with Target and all these other companies doing so well, I would expect Walmart to do a lot better than they've been doing the past couple months, kind of pulling back really hard, like in February and March, like at the beginning of this year. it was kind of like unexpected. There wasn't too many other companies like, like Target and other ones didn't have these harsh pullbacks like this. So it was really strange to see, I thought.
True that. And then RCL, like I just want to talk more about this type of movement. Not necessarily just RCL, but cruise lines in general. You have RCL, you have CCL, NCLH. Like I think that they're at a pretty good like buying spot for like just in terms of like risk reward ratios. I really like them right now, and I'm glad that they're holding their ground.
Me too. I really like them for the longer term. I really hope that next year they can really start to make some profits over this winter, and like even right now, like it's getting really tempting. I'm starting to really look at shares, look at selling puts on these. I think next summer these stocks will start to really explode. So have your eyes open. I think that there's going to be a lot of opportunities over the next few months, especially if we start to see the market pull back from all-time highs sometime over this winter. If we could see just a little bit of a correction or something over the winter, we'll have so many good opportunities coming up that it'll be insane. And, these cruise lines and airlines are going to be some of the bigger ones to watch for.
You know it. All right, and then we have M saying SPY all-time high, so it just broke, Tom.
There we go. Did it run up to 443.03, just barely breaking above? Glad to see this happening, and hopefully we can get some good momentum. We're at 442.93 right now. I hope we can see more green candles because, man, if we kind of get rejected here and start to fall off, I'd be pretty sad. I like to see solid breakouts. I don't want to see any like intraday fake outs or anything like that. I'd like to see a good move. And man, the SPY has been kind of coiling here for the past like 3 trading days. So I'm glad to see it finally moving one way or the other. I'm glad to see it going up. We have Zoom up today. We have DraftKings up, Baba's green, Zom's green, Apple's green, Enphase is green, Bank of America's green. So it seems like we just have a lot of green across the board. And the stocks that are red, unfortunately are like Tesla, NEO, AMD. But it seems like these other stocks are really holding the market up. And man, the SPY is starting to really get up there.
There we go. So, yeah, I mean, and as the SPY is breaking all-time highs, of course, we have the VIX tanking, which, is just expected. And then another stock I wanted to call out that I feel like a lot of people are missing is TTD. This thing has a ton of volume today. It's up like 10%, and it's really breaking out.
Wow, yeah, this is going to actually, yeah, a lot of people are missing out on this one. The Trade Desk has been a really popular stock. I know they had that split a little while ago too, even. And, that honestly brought their price down quite a bit. But looking at the Trade Desk, I like them for the long term. I think they'll be a pretty good company. And man, ever since they've came on the market, they've been really good. Now, they did have that little bit of a pullback go on, with these earnings and then with that split. I'm glad that the split helped them go back up a little, but that pullback was pretty drastic. But man, I think that this stock will start to really run up for the longer term. I really like it. And like you said, Mike, it's honestly off a lot of people's radar. So hopefully it starts to get back on there.
All right, and then Tom, check out GameStop. They're running up while AMC is doing nothing.
Wow, yeah, and AMC even had those earnings. So I'm glad to see GameStop running, though. I think that GameStop is a little bit better of a company for the longer term than AMC is. AMC is in that movie theater industry, which isn't the best for the longer term. Like eventually they'll probably get phased out, which I like going to the movies. So I hate to see that, but it seems like, just with the way it's all going and stuff, they'll probably eventually get phased out. But I think something like GameStop, who sells video games, could definitely keep going for the future, especially if they could somehow innovate and come up with some type of like online platform or something like that. I think that would work out pretty good for them. But honestly, they had a pretty good pretty good support at like $150. They bounced right off of that, and they're just running up ever since that day.
Yeah, I know that some people were like sharing the AMC, what was it? It was like the AMC like earnings announcements from their CEO. I know that they were talking about, like accepting Bitcoin and like even like having more of like the UFC pay-per-view like events at their theater. So I know that they're trying to adapt, but I definitely know what you mean. And, they're both definitely risky plays fundamentally, but I know a lot of people are really in them for the hype. So I'm just excited to see how they continue to perform over the next year. It's such an interesting situation, and it's so rare to see, a situation where, retail traders are kind of standing up against the hedge funds. And the hedge funds still aren't in the best position, but I don't know. I'm just curious to see what happens.
Yeah, me too. And I think that a lot of hedge funds might even be opening up new like positions on this. So we'll have to see how it ends up going. And, a lot of times, like, especially now, like, keep in mind these hedge funds might be trying to make some money on the upside too. Like, even though they're shorting them, like, like they could definitely be making a little bit of money to the upside at the same time. So, of course, they're definitely going to be going all types of ways.
Of course. And then we have Vicky saying, I'm not missing on TTD, Tom. There we go, Vicky. And then she also said, hit the like button. There we go. So guys, hitting that like button really, really helps us out. It takes like 2 seconds. So if you guys enjoyed the stream, or if you guys just want to support us, it would really, really help us out if you could hit that like button. It takes like 2 seconds. And thank you guys so much all for joining the stream. And then we have Maine saying ZEV is popping. So I know that they called this one out pretty early. I actually believe the market, they called this out before the market even opened. And, it's up like 74% today.
Yeah, this is awesome. They had a great move since open. We opened like right around $9 or $10, ran all the way up to 11.17 with a big run up today. I don't know what kind of news these guys had, Mike. I'm still going to look into that. I'm actually going to search it up right now, but that's really good to see with this type of stock moving like this. And man, it's just it's really hard to say, like we see all these like stocks, like these EV stocks and stuff. Sometimes they'll start to fly up like this. And then like, for example, they'll have like 6 months of a huge downtrend, kind of like ZEV had going on. So hopefully we can see more movement back up. And I like these companies for the long term. So hopefully they can all go back up, like even like NIO and Tesla, like they're not looking the best right now. So I'd like to see them even go up more.
Yep, so it looks like we have these cruise lines breaking out. RCL just broke their high of day.
RCL, there we go. Royal Caribbean, I know they just reported those earnings too. Did pretty well after that report. Started to run up. And man, they are getting really close to $79. I'd love to see them get up above through these areas. I think that RCL is just one of my favorite stocks for the cruise lines, and I love the way they've been moving the past couple weeks. I think it looks like a good recovery play possibly.
For sure. So SPCE is selling off a decent amount today. I'm not sure if you saw that. I'm just looking through a couple different stocks on my watch list right now.
Wow.
Let's see. Airlines aren't doing bad. Zoom's not doing bad. So yeah, let me know what stocks you guys are watching. Tom, what do you think about SPCE?
Man, that's a big rejection up there at like 35.50. I honestly makes me a little sad. I was hoping to see some good movement today. I remember talking about him in the stream last night, and honestly, it was setting up pretty nicely. Looked like we might see some good runs today, but just got totally rejected in pre-market off of that resistance there. Came right to the downside. So not surprised to see it. They had that big share offering, and people were really looking at this one to run back up. And sometimes, like whenever a lot of people are kind of waiting for that, sometimes the market just likes to go against you. And, who knows, people might've been taking profits or what, but I think for the longer term, it'll still be a pretty good stock. And I really like it still. And I think as we go down, this $30 support might hold up on it.
All right. So good stuff there. How's Mrna doing? I know that a lot of people are looking at it, and it's, oh wow, it's down like 3.5% today.
Yeah, down even more. Look at this. It's actually sitting right on my 1000 SMA on the 1 minute, hit it twice. And now we're actually about to fall right through there, get some more downwards movement. I think we might actually go down and hit the 460 support today. Who knows? But it really looks like it's going down right now. It's almost like it's sliding off. That's like what I like to say when these stocks start to go down. It normally looks like they're starting to slide off. And I would say that like on the 1 minute right now, looks like we are finally breaking down below, and man, really looking for a run all the way down to 160. Now that we broke this 1000 SMA, I think this could be a pretty bad day for Mrna. And, keep in mind, even if they go down, like let's say Mrna falls down to $300, okay? They'll still be up so much this year. It's kind of insane.
Yeah, that's actually crazy. It's kind of like Tesla, like when you look at that one too. So definitely keep an eye on Mrna. And we have Hunter asking about coin. So COIN. Let's take a look. Yeah, this one's also falling off. I was just looking at Bitcoin, and it was selling off just a little bit. But Coin has earnings, and I'm very curious to see how they do.
Yeah, I think that Coin's earnings will talk a lot about Bitcoin. So it might give us a good insight into like the Bitcoin market too, because who knows? Like Coin, obviously, they're a pretty big like I don't know, like what do you call them? Like a brokerage?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say that. It's weird because I know that like yeah, we'll just say a Bitcoin brokerage or Bitcoin platform. You can say.
Yeah, because yeah, it's definitely a little different, but yeah, almost like a platform or something. But yeah, I mean, looking at Coinbase, they definitely deal a lot with Bitcoin, and they have a lot of insight into that type of market. So I think like reading into their earnings tonight, it'll be very interesting to see how they end up like kind of giving an insight into the Bitcoin market and just kind of like how their sales are going. I think it'll kind of also give us an insight into how all these other like Bitcoin platform sales are going, kind of like like BitRX and all those other ones.
And even Robinhood, because I know that Robinhood had a decent amount of their revenue come from like cryptocurrencies. So let's say Bitcoin or let's say Coinbase says that trading activity in this quarter straight up exploded. I would really, really think that Robinhood has some sort of similar movement to that. So I definitely keep an eye on that. And then we have Kieran saying DDD is flying. Let's take a look. DDD, yeah, it's up like almost 30%.
Yeah, Triple D really flying up there. This stock's really good. A lot of people have been talking about it, and I'm glad to see it go up. But man, it flew up so fast. I think a lot of people missed the move, especially with earnings going on. So honestly, the move on earnings was a little bit too good. And what's funny is that they really killed their EPS, and I'm glad to see it going up. But I can't believe on the daily chart ever since the beginning of this year how much like up and down movement this stock has had. I mean, man, it's been flying from $20 to $40 to $25 back up to 40. Like, man, this thing's been volatile.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. Let's see what else we have. CLF popping too. I don't know if you saw that.
CLF, no, I actually haven't looked at this one in a couple weeks, but man, they had some good earnings go on, the big run up since those. And it looks like they'll actually run up to well, it looks like they're going to retest those all time highs at minimum, but it seems like they might break it.
All right, here we go. RCL, we're going for that break of $79.40, which was actually the high of Friday.
Yeah, that was a pretty good high up there. And man, if we break out here, I think we could get a pretty good run. $80 might be a hard area too, but I like it. I think we could get a pretty safe move back up to this 82 resistance, which is coming up after this area. So I think it'll be a pretty safe move if we can break through there. But keep in mind, RCL is already up 2%. They could easily have a nice 5% day though and keep going.
All right, there we go. Let's see. Mrna, Goldman. How are banks? I know that they were really popping up on Friday and they kind of fell off yesterday. So it looks like they're right back up.
Yeah, they are up. Bank of America is actually breaking that high of yesterday, which was pretty surprising. With that little sell-off at the end of the day, I was kind of thinking that the stocks might end up going down again, but Goldman is going up too, holding that $400 area, which I thought $400 was going to be a pretty harsh resistance for Goldman, but looks like they just had that strength, kept going right up through there. JP Morgan, same story. They're getting up there. They're actually not above that high of yesterday yet on JP Morgan. Oh, yep. Now they are. Now that right once I said that, they broke it on the 1 minute. But yep, starting to go up. And it looks like they could be a pretty good breakout play. But, just be a little careful. These banks, they like to have these big green moves. And then they generally just don't have that solid direction all day. They like to go up and down a lot. So be a little careful with them. But if you can catch that momentum, I think it can be a good trade. But like I said, though, they've been running like almost all morning. So be a little wary.
All right, and then we have Vicky asking about Penn, PENN. So I really like this one for the long term. I think the best way to go, though, would be shares or short puts.
Yeah, me too. I think shorting puts on this one would be a really good way. Shares are my favorite way because, then you don't have to worry about time. But short puts, you don't really have to worry about time either if you really like the stock for the long term. So I like either way with those. And honestly, like looking at Penn, ever since those earnings, that was a pretty big like run up they had like the day before or right on those earnings. So I hope that they can keep going up and I like them. If you can pick up shares of Penn under $80 a share, I think you're getting them for a pretty good price. And same with DraftKings. I think if you can get DraftKings, unfortunately we're above 50 now because we've had such good movement, but anywhere under like $50, $55, I think will be really solid for the long run.
Sounds good. So yeah, I actually might short some puts on Penn. I kind of, I wouldn't really go too far out of the money. Part of me was thinking of shorting like the 85 strike puts for January and getting like what is that, like almost $1,900 worth of premium. But I was also looking at like maybe going a little bit closer expiration to get that more significant time decay. So I was kind of looking at maybe the 75 strike for September to get around like $600 or so in premium. So I don't know. I just figured I'd share it with everyone because it's definitely on my radar.
Yeah, that would be a really good one, actually. And man, if you got shares at $65, I'd be really happy to hold that for the long term. And, if you like this stock for the long term, I think that's a really good way to go. If you guys have any questions, just put it in the chat or, click our Discord link and check it out. Come trade in there with us and you can ask us questions all day in there.
For sure. So, Tom, looks like the top stocks for today is, of course, we have Moderna to the downside, but to the upside, at least my favorite two plays are DraftKings to the upside and then RCL. They have some pretty solid momentum, and I actually like both of them for the long term.
Yeah, DraftKings is honestly looking pretty solid. If they could break out above 54, we could get a big run, I think, to the upside. And I love the way they're setting up right now. I think it looks like a very solid setup. My favorite stock is probably going to be DraftKings too, but I'm really eyeing up these EV charging stocks like BLNK, CHPT. I think later on today, once this bill passes, we'll have some pretty big moves, but who knows? The stocks have been kind of popping the past 2 days. So maybe that move is getting kind of priced in, but we'll just have to see. But I honestly really like it. I'm also liking some of these marijuana stocks, like CGC is like leading my watch list right now, actually, which is kind of strange. They're up above DraftKings, and it looks like they're getting down to some of these key support levels, like right around like $17, $18 on CGC. Tilray looks like it's moving pretty well today on the 1 minute chart, actually bouncing pretty well. So maybe these marijuana stocks will get a little pop up the next couple days too.
There we go. So what else? So it looks like that's the main stocks that are moving right now. Pfizer is still exploding, even though Moderna is kind of slowing down, which was pretty interesting. A pretty interesting thing to see.
Yeah, and they're kind of like they just broke their all-time highs a couple days ago, so maybe they'll run up to $50, and maybe that'll be their upper resistance, kind of like how Moderna's was 500. That would be a pretty funny scenario. But just looking at it, it's definitely getting up above those highs by quite a bit. The all-time high was at like 44. Now we're sitting around 46, 47. So hopefully, this stock can kind of slow itself down and start to turn back over, because I think it could be a good opportunity for puts once it does, kind of like Moderna. But like you said, really strange that this one's running up today without Moderna running up. Moderna seemed like it was kind of pulling all these other stocks up, but Pfizer has honestly keep holding its own today.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at a couple different strikes for Pfizer because I remember, I don't know, what was it? Maybe like a couple months ago or so, I saw Smart Money get into some Pfizer calls. I believe it was a 37 strike calls for January of 2023. I could be wrong, but I believe it was these ones. And Smart Money bought, let's see, they bought like 6,000 contracts, like $320 a contract. And right now it looks like they're still holding them, and they're like over $1,000 a contract. Which is crazy.
That's honestly insane. Like $1,000 a contract. Wow. I mean, that's a really good, really good ratio for them. And man, this stock is just flying and flying. So hopefully it keeps going for them.
Yeah, I mean, they bought it like around 300, and now it's at 1,000. I think they're still holding. So it's definitely popping, which is crazy to see. And then we have Kieran saying Mrna back to 470 from 460. So yeah, it's kind of just bouncing back and forth, but I think it's going to be a wild ride to the downside.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty wild, and we're just hovering right around this 1,000 SMA right now, so who knows, we might get a little pop back up. Sometimes the stock likes to bounce after touching around this area, so I'd like to see that, but personally, I think it just looks like we have a lot of room to the downside. To me, it just looks like a little bit of an intraday bounce back up after falling, and I think we'll get more downwards movement maybe like later on in the day. But Mike, something that really caught my eye today was kind of crude oil, like looking at crude, look at this chart. I mean, man, they are straight up 3% back up to $68 a barrel after falling down to 65 just yesterday. So man, honestly, like crude oil is having a really good recovery play today. And it's I'm not sure if this is like pulling up the overall market or what, but man, looking at crude on the daily, it looks like they've just been like kind of pulling back, but man, it looks like they might try to get a little bit of a turn and another run back to the upside here. And we might see like companies like ZOM and CVX start to really go up again if oil can start to, keep going up, because I think a lot of these companies were kind of expecting oil to start to come back down a little bit. But if oil can hold this 65 support and go back up, it'll be really good.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Tom, do you have any last minute stocks or anything you're watching for the rest of the day?
Man, still watching like stocks, like I said, like Exxon Mobil, some of those, really watching BLNK. We have all that infrastructure news coming out later on today. It's going to be pretty big. I'm going to throw it up here. CNBC reports that Senate set to pass $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill as Democrats move ahead with their economic plan. They also came out with that $3.5 trillion spending bill yesterday. So that's going to be a pretty interesting thing to hear about over the next couple days. Looks like Kevin O'Leary has a new show, but he's always a pretty interesting guy to watch. But man, this infrastructure bill is going to be really, really fun to watch, I think. And man, just watch out for these EV companies. CHPT, BLNK. I know I've talked about them a lot today, but I really like them. And I think that with the next couple days and over the next couple weeks, with this bill coming out, we could definitely see some good movement come in, and possibly we might see like Wall Street bets or some hype come in if we see good enough movement.
There we go. So, and then with the last question, we have James saying, "Morning, guys. Thoughts on AMC and SPCE?" So let's take a look. AMC, I know that they were popping earlier today, but it looks like they're just holding their ground right now. A little bit of selling pressure. To me, it looks like that main support's at 35. As long as they hold above that, they should be good, in my opinion. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think it looks pretty solid. Like AMC could hold their supports and go back up. So hopefully that'll be the right type of move. $34 seems pretty strong. So hopefully they can hold there. I think we could see some decent movement back up with them too.
All right, and then with the last one, we have SPCE, which kind of has a similar setup, but they have more downwards pressure. I would say the main support on that one is like $31.50.
Yeah, that's going to be a big support as far as the resistance goes. There's a big one up there around 35.50, which they hit off of in pre-market. So really just watch for that support. We could get a good bounce somewhere. And I really like SPCE for the long term, at these lower levels. But for the short term, it can obviously go up and down either way. But I like them both. And I think SPCE is honestly my favorite of the two, just given the sector and everything they're in. But don't discount AMC. It could still run again.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining the stream today. We had a great time, and there's a lot of things going on in the market. That AMC earnings, Mrna going crazy, DraftKings, and the cruise lines popping. So thank you guys so much for joining, and we hope you have an amazing